The trading outpost of Carroll Station floated above a pale blue moon. Huge docking rings surrounded the station like metal halos. Freighters from dozens of worlds moved slowly through space and connected to the massive structure. Cargo lights blinked. Across long docking corridors, engines hummed softly through the wall. Scroll Station was never quiet. Merchants shouted prices, dock workers pushed heavy cargo crates. Alien languages mixed together in a constant wave of sound near Dock Gate 7A. Small human girl sat on a metal crate. Her name was Mayoroshi, wore a bright yellow jacket and heavy boots that were a little too big for her feet. Her dark hair moved slightly in the air currents from the docking vents. Myra was waiting for her mother. Her mother worked on the station repair crew, fixing damaged power lines and engine conduits. The work took many hours sometimes. Myra waited near the docking area until the shift ended today. Myra had something very important with her lunch. She held a small blue lunchbox painted with oceans and countenance of earth. Inside were 2 sandwiches, an apple and a chocolate bar. Chocolate bar was her favorite. Her mother had packed it before leaving for work and told her to save it for later. Myra planned to eat it. Slowly around her, many aliens walked through the cargo yard. Some were tall and thin, some had shells. Some had glowing skin. Several of them looked at the small human child with curiosity. Humans were not common visitors on Carroll Station. Human children were almost never seen. Myra did not notice the attention. She was focused on her lunchbox. She opened the lid carefully. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Her stomach made a small hungry sound. She smiled happily and picked up the first sandwich. Across the cargo yard, another pair of eyes noticed the food. Those eyes belonged to a Threxian scavenger named Crawl, had dark-scaled skin and narrow yellow eyes that watched everything carefully. His species came from a harsh desert world where food was rare and survival meant moving quickly and taking opportunities. Crawl had lived most of his life drifting between space stations, stealing what he needed to him. The scene looked very simple. Small creature, no protection, food within reach. Crawl moved quietly through the cargo stacks. His long tail slid behind him as he stepped between crates and loading machines. His eyes never left the lunchbox. Mira lifted the sandwich toward her mouth. Before she could take a bite, a shadow moved behind Hera. Fast hand grabbed the lunchbox. Crawl ran. He sprinted across the cargo yard with long, quick steps. The lunchbox bounced slightly in his grip as he disappeared between stacks of containers. Mira blinked in surprise. Her hands were empty for a moment. She simply stared. Then she stood up. Someone had stolen her lunch, her sandwiches, her apple, her chocolate bar. Her eyes narrowed. That was not acceptable. She started running. Crawl moved quickly through the maze of cargo containers. He jumped over a small loader machine and turned into a narrow service corridor. Behind him, he heard something. Footsteps. Small, fast footsteps. Crawl glanced over his shoulder. The human child was chasing him. At first, he laughed quietly. The girl was much smaller than him. Yellow jacket flapped behind her as she ran, but her face looked very serious. Crawl ran faster. He twisted through tight spaces between containers. He ducked under a hanging cargo crane. Yet the footsteps behind him did not disappear. They grew closer. Mira ran with full determination. Her boots struck the metal floor again, and again her eyes stayed locked on the thief. Her mother had packed that lunch. The chocolate bar was special. She was not going to lose it. Crawl turned another corner and slowed slightly. Opened the lunchbox. While running inside, he saw the sandwiches. They smelled amazing. He reached for one. Suddenly, something crashed into the back of his leg. Crawl fell forward onto the metal floor. The lunchbox slid across the corridor. Myra had tackled him. Crawl screeched in surprise. He rolled onto his back and tried to push the human away, but Myra grabbed the front of his vest and held tight. Give that back, she said. Crawl hissed and tried to twist away. His claws scraped across the floor, his tail whipped from side to side. Myra held on firmly. Humans grew strong under the heavy gravity of Earth. Even a human child had surprising strength. Crawl swung one arm toward her. Myra ducked quickly. She grabbed his wrist and pushed it aside. Then she leaned forward and headbutted him. The impact stunned him immediately. Crawl blinked and shook. Myra pushed him flat onto the floor and climbed onto his chest so he could not escape. Around the corner, several aliens had gathered to watch. A tall, insect-shaped merchant spoke softly as the human child fighting the thief. A dock mechanic laughed loudly. Yes, and she is winning. Crawl struggled but could not move. Myra pointed at him. You stole my lunch. That was rude. Crawl stared at her. He had robbed travelers across many stations. Of them had chased him like this. None of them had tackled him, and none of them had scolded him like an angry teacher. Myra poked his shoulder firmly. Give it back. Crawl raised his hands slowly. In surrender, he pointed toward the lunchbox lying down the corridor. Myra stood up, but kept watching him carefully. She walked over and picked up the lunchbox. Inside, the sandwiches were a little squished, but still fine. The apple had rolled into the corner. The chocolate bar remained safe. She closed the lid and walked back toward Crawl. The watching crowd leaned closer. Crawl looked tired and defeated. Myra studied him for a moment. His scales looked dull. His clothes were old. He looked more hungry than dangerous. She opened the lunch box again. She took out one sandwich. Then she held it out toward him. You should not steal, she said, but you look hungry. Crawl stared at the sandwich. In silence, the small human had chased him, knocked him down, defeated him. Now she was offering food. Slowly he reached forward and accepted it. You small human, he said, quietly. Myra nodded. Once next time, Crawl nodded. Quickly Myra closed the lunchbox and started walking back toward Dock Gate 7. The aliens watching slowly returned to their Walker station. Security guard arrived late and looked around in confusion. What happened here? The dock mechanic smiled. Simple story. Predator stole lunch. 5 minutes later, a human girl caught him and beat him. The guard looked at Myra, walking calmly across the cargo yard with her lunchbox. He shook his head slowly. Humans are strange. Down the corridor, Crawl sat quietly and ate the sandwich. It was the best food he had tasted in weeks. Here watched the small girl disappear round the corner. Then he spoke softly to himself. Never steal from humans, especially the small ones. Asterisk.